This is something that we need to learn how to do for the rest of our lives. For the rest of your life, you need to realize that we are consumers, that we take in information, and that our body has to process that. And our bones are storing the minerals that are a big aspect to how our body manages stress. Hello. Today, I would like to discuss the critical role of stress in bone loss. So, as a yoga therapist and a functional health coach, I run functional labs. And recently, what I've really noticed in some of the clients that I've worked with for longer periods of time, so people that I've been working with for, let's say, 6 months plus, is that initially when we run functional labs and we find out what's going on, you can make some dietary shifts, bring in some supplement support. And at some point, what ends up happening is that if you do not manage stress in your life, so if you are watching news, listening to crazy statistics about things, being triggered by fear, by scarcity, which is what happens, right? We're all under a lot of stress. In actuality, a lot of that stress comes from what we consume, what we bring in, what we watch, what we listen to, what we read about. And this is something that we need to learn how to do for the rest of our lives. For the rest of your life, you need to realize that we are consumers, that we take in information, and that our body has to process that. And our bones are storing the minerals that are a big aspect to how our body manages stress. So, what I would like to raise your awareness to is that if you want to do all you can naturally to age as strong and healthy as possible, if you have osteoporosis and you're looking for natural approaches to reverse your bone loss, to reverse your osteoporosis, stress management has to be a key player in that. It is not just about taking some herbs or supplements or changing your diet. And that is something when women come to me for the first time, most of them seem to be on calcium and vitamin D, and some are on other nutrients that are really important for bone health. Most are not, but they're all on these two supplements in particular, and maybe even some other supplements. Yet, the stress management piece and understanding that that is a big aspect of what you need to do, that's not really noticed or recognized to the level that it needs to be when you are doing all that you can to slow down, stop, and reverse your bone loss. So let's talk about stress. One thing about stress, it maybe not even realizing what that word means. So let's talk about stress. What does that word mean, stress? It means something's coming into your body that your body cannot handle. And the way that it's going to try to manage it is with minerals, and minerals are stored in your bones. That's one of a very simplistic way of looking at this. So there's a demand that comes in that your body cannot handle, and the bones suffer. It's slow leaks in the background. The way that I see this the most often, some of the main ways that I see this in those that I work with, number one, above all else, is what are you listening to? What are you watching? And who are you speaking to? What stories are you bringing in? What triggers of fear and scarcity are you bringing into your life on a daily basis? So I used to say in my classes when I was teaching live that watching the news is like physically being stoned or flogging yourself. And if you think about the shows you're watching, most of the time, especially news, it is negative. It's negative information. And whether you realize it in that moment or not, you are triggering some deep biochemical reactions inside your body. And I say to stop watching news. And, then someone will say, well, I need to know what's going on. I'm like, why? Why do we need to know what's going on all over the place? Are you doing anything about it? And if it's something you don't have control over, then you're just hurting yourself and you're hurting your bones. And that's definitely something that is really up there for me. When I am going to work with someone, I want to make sure that I have someone that's committed wholeheartedly to doing all that they can naturally. And if that's you, then it has to be that you're willing to do something about what you're consuming when it comes to stress. What are you putting yourself up against? Because you are up against that news. So not to get on a um, not to be too harsh with that and to be harsh with that. Because if you don't do that, it doesn't matter what I find in a lab, what great supplements I recommend, what dietary shifts I ask you to make, and you may even be able to make them. If you do not manage stress, you will not be successful or as successful at reversing bone loss or even slowing it down. So if it is something, it needs to be a big part of what you do. You need to look for those areas of where is this showing up for you in your life? How does it show up for your life? What are the stressors in your life? How can you manage them? And how can you remove what you're able to remove? Especially, females, right? Most of the big metabolic diseases, or many of them, osteoporosis for sure, it's mostly women because of the roles that we play and what we take on and what we take onto our plate, or how little we stand up for ourselves, or how we don't think we should, or we don't realize that we could say no to this or no to that, or that the role that we're playing might not be the healthiest role for ourselves. And if you're the matriarch, if you play this role in your family where you have a lot of people relying on you, you need to take care of yourself. That whole saying of put your face mask on first, it is true. You do need to take care of you. You need to take care of your body, your bones. You need to make sure that you prevent many of the not great things that'll happen if you do fracture a spinal bone, a wrist, ankle, hip, whatever it is. So learning how critical this role is. So on one main wave, I'm going to give you one big tip. I'm going to tell you to turn off the news. And if you really start to think about what you actually can do with that information, like, what are you doing with that information that you're bringing in? Because that's the thing, for some reason, we feel this attachment to, I need to know what's going on. Okay. So what are you doing with that? So maybe there's some things that you could look at that you do have control over. It's a really big thing. So that's from a bone health perspective, talking about like the biochemical aspect of setting up your nervous system so it's not slowly leaking your bones. The other part of this is from a mental emotional layer. You're actually going to feel more lighthearted and happy when you don't have the weight of the world on your shoulders, the weight of the world in some ways that you can't do anything about. And I can tell in my conversations, my private sessions with people, what they're listening to. And I could tell, like it just say in February, I have 20 calls with people. And I can tell the same stories are coming out. So I know that this is news based, or potentially even where that information came from, because I hear the same story. And it's almost like that whole analogy of, gossiping. And I just imagine us all getting together in the city center before, saying, "Oh no, did you hear about this, or did you see this, or whatever?" It's almost like that. Like we feel this need to tell each other about this horrible thing that happened, and maybe it is this innate aspect of humans where we are preparing as a group to save each other because we do think that we see or notice a threat. But I'd really like you for you to think about, what is that threat? How true is that threat to you? Because I think that's really important for you to think about what it is you're really worried about and how valid is it. Here's another thing to do with this. Present moment is the only thing that's real. Right now, right here. This is it. This is real. You're in the moment. What's going to happen next week, next year, 2 years from now is not real. The predictions are not real. They are predictions. The economy is going to tank in the summer. The economy is going to tank next year. Whatever it is, fear-based, scarcity-based, futuristic, not real. Yet in this present moment, you are really stressed out about that future thing that's not real and creating more bone loss. And most importantly, not even fully enjoying this present moment. So I would say sometimes to people, you could be sitting at the most beautiful sunset. The sky is showing off for you. Pinks, purples, beautiful, like one of the most beautiful sunsets. And you could be in your mind with a piece of information you received about something from the future that's not real, that is not a pink, purple, beautiful sunset. And you would not even be enjoying that sunset because you're so worried about what may happen. And the more that I've understood this and the more that I've tried to check my own self when I start to go to future worry, what I realize is, oh, it didn't happen, or oh, it didn't happen the way I thought it would. So either it happens to a lesser degree, it doesn't happen at all, or at the time when I finally get to that place, I'm able to manage whatever it is that's happening. So please, if you want to naturally take control of your health, of your bones, of your hormones, of healthy aging, do not erode your peace, your body, your mind, your soul with worry of something that is not real, a story that was told, a prediction that was made by whoever made it. The body cannot heal in a stressful state. So the on switches of bone building, which are healing, reparative, bone remodeling switches, turning on bone building, osteoblasts, osteoblasts, osteoblasts. Those on switches will not be triggered when you're in a stress state, whether it's a real danger or a perceived danger. No supplement, no dietary changes, no weight bearing exercise, nothing is going to overcome that, because the nervous system that you're here with today, you got here because you survived every generation before you. And whatever they were up against is the imprint of the nervous system you have today. So we have highly sensitized nervous systems. Your mother, grandmother, great grandmother, great great grandmother, wherever they were in the world, starving, life being risked, whatever it was, first century, second century, all of that. Whoever survived then went on to have the next generation and the next generation. So in this generation, we are highly sensitized in order to survive, right? Survival of the fittest that each generation you came through. And in this generation, we are triggered and stimulated from more angles than ever before with what you don't have, that you're not enough, that you better watch out, all of the fear tactics that are happening. So for your bones, for your nervous system, just think about those things. Think about, what is it you are consuming? What is it you are watching, listening to? Your eyes are very sensitive. The optic nerve in the eyes constantly bringing in information because it needs to keep you safe. Is there a tiger over there? Is there a tiger over there? Is there a tiger over there? Constantly. And that information from the optic nerve to the brain, the information in the ears when we are listening, is determining whether or not your bone building cells are being turned on or the breakdown is happening. The bone cells, the bone breakdown cells, are able to break down at a faster rate than the bone building cells. It's a few weeks for bone loss cells, the osteoclasts, to be stimulated, and a few months for the bone builders, because the body dedicates more to keeping you safe than it does to building and repairing and restoring. So more of the nervous system is dedicated towards fear and scarcity. Less is to building and repairing. So if you want to do all that you can for your bones to be the strongest, best quality, most dense with minerals that they can be, manage your stress. Notice what you participate in every single day. Add that to the list of all the dietary things you're going to get out. Like, don't stress out your bones dietarily by eating gluten or dairy or non-organic foods that have toxins in them, right? It's easier to make those decisions. Okay, I'll give up this, I'll give up this, I'll give up this. But understand that this invisible stimulation of stress can do more damage and get in your way of taking charge of your bone health more than any other act that you will participate in when it comes to doing all that you can naturally for your bones. Thank you so much for listening to Stronger Bones Lifestyle Podcast. Bone loss is not an inevitable part of aging. We don't have to just wait for it to happen. There is so much that you can do, and that is what you will learn each week on the show. Go to my website, debirobinson.com, if you want more information about what was shared in today's episode. At the bottom of this episode in the show notes, there will be links to whatever was shared. Please subscribe to this podcast. Share this podcast with your friends, your family, or any women that you think may be interested or benefit from the information we're sharing. Please rate the podcast. And if you have any questions you'd like asked or answered, I would love to hear from you. Let's do this, ladies. Let's change the way the world views osteoporosis and slow down, stop, or reverse our bone loss, take charge, and show other ladies what is possible. Thank you so much for joining me.